Hi, everyone. This is Tracy Malone from NarcissistAbuseSupport.com. Today, I have a really special guest, and I know that you are going to love her. Michelle Chalfant has created something called the Adult Chair to help people come back in tune with their emotions, learn to heal the wounds. And the reason we're talking today is because everyone with narcissistic abuse has wounds. They wind up losing themselves. They wind up not feeling confident and strong and self-reliant and everything. So I'm so glad that she's here. And I don't talk about healing as much as I teach. I teach it all the time, but I don't come here on YouTube. I usually do a divorce interview and things like that. I think this is really going to sit well for all of you because we had a great discussion on healing and why we're vulnerable to narcissists. It's the unhealed wounds. And let's go meet her. Welcome, Michelle. I'm so glad to have you here.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for having me.
We are going to have such a lively conversation today about people who are with narcissists.
hmm
My opinion, and I believe yours is as well, that there's some wounds inside of us that made us more vulnerable. Narcissists target people for their kindness, for this, for that, but I think they exploit the wounds. And can you identify like what are the vulnerabilities that people would have that might set them up to be in a narcissistic relationship or make it feel
Mm.
normal?
And what? I'm sorry,
Or
what'd you
make it
say?
feel normal. Like,
Yeah. And I know that you and I are aligned on this one because we've talked about this, but I really don't believe that our reality is created by anyone outside of us. I also say we should never judge ourselves because so much of what we are creating in the life that we're living is based on unconscious, what I call programs or beliefs, same thing to me. These beliefs were really planted into our unconscious mind by the time we were 6 years old. And that's what we as adults are living off of. So I think about humans being very much like computers or phones, and we update our phones. I mean, I just had an update on my phone recently, like, okay, time to update the software on your phone. Unfortunately, adults don't do that unless we turn inward and do our personal work. So, yeah. So, what sets us up for something like a narcissistic relationship or an abusive relationship? And I really do believe it's programming that is creating that relationship. Something about that person coming in feels familiar. And it feels familiar because our programming might be something like, I don't matter. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. I'm not valuable, even though on the outside, I may have beautiful clothes. I can put makeup on. Outside, I have a big power job. Inside, unbeknownst to us, most of us don't know the programs that are running. We don't feel that way exactly because that program is sneaky. It's in the unconscious mind. We are only aware of about 6% of the conscious mind. Everything else that we are creating is from the unconscious mind. So let's say 94% of our reality is coming from that unconscious mind that is put in the unconscious mind by the time we're six. Crazy. That's our roadmap. So think about right now as an adult, go back to whatever year it was when you were 6 years old. So for me, it was like early 70s or 75, let's say. So I can't imagine driving around right now with a road map from 1975. Think about that. If I handed you a paper road map and said, go back to this year, now navigate your way to the store, to this restaurant, well, they're not going to be there. They're
mhm.
not going to be there. That roadmap is outdated. We have to update the roadmap. And indicators for when we need to update that roadmap is when we are living in a reality that is not peaceful, bringing us joy. When we notice patterns that keep coming up, we keep creating the same person keeps showing up, we keep getting fired from the same job. people keep treating us in the same way. It's not about who's out there. It's about the programming that's in here.
And and for someone who is raised by a narcissist, because as you were talking, I was raised by two parents that were just so emotionally immature and very narcissistic, very neglectful, and that's how their operating systems were because that's what they learned. But during my, if I go on to my seven, I'm looking at, you're not good enough. You'll never be good enough. You better marry well, my father would say, because you'll never be anything. And when you get that programming, and that was even until I was getting married, that I was still getting that constant dose from my family that not good enough, not smart enough, not this enough, not that enough. And when we have those things, and again, are they subconscious? I'm not walking around saying I'm not good enough, but my actions show me that I will settle for something that I shouldn't be settling for because that fear is inside of me. Right?
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's always about us. But as I say that, it's never an invitation for self-blame or judgment because we don't know. We get the programming from the people that raised us. And I don't even blame them because they don't know any better. Kind of like you just said about your parents. They didn't know. They learned from their parents. So it's generational. It just gets passed down. Sometimes our siblings are bullying us. Sometimes it's a young child, the neighbor that's bullying it. Whatever it might be, it's creating the roadmap that teaches us how to live and show up for the rest of our lives and who to pick as partners and what feels I can't say it familiar to us on some level. It's like that person is not treating me well. We don't know to set a boundary unless somebody showed us how to set a boundary in a healthy way. We don't know to set a boundary if we don't feel inside that what that person is saying to us feels bad. And if we grew up, like you're saying, in a narcissistic home or where we're gaslit, we learn to turn off or turn down the volume of our emotions. We learn to disconnect from our emotions.
Mhm.
And we've got to learn how to turn that volume up so then we can pay attention to how we feel when someone says that to me or when someone does that to me. But again, like you said, when you're raised like that, we turn to our parents. I always say we turn to our parents and treat them like they're Superman and Wonder Woman, like they are it, they are everything. And I believe in everything that they say and do. And I believe everything that they say when they tell me who I am, I believe that to be true as well. So we're really confused by the time we leave the nest. And therefore, we tend to create these people because of our programming. And it's what we were taught our whole lives. What else are we supposed to do?
Exactly. I mean, I love the programming analogy and I use it as well. This is not conscious. I am
No.
not waking up going, you're not good enough, Tracy. It's how it shows up. Again, if I'm not speaking up and setting a boundary, maybe it is because I didn't learn how to do it when I grew up, but it's also maybe I don't really have the right to do that or the feeling of that because of that programming. I'm not allowed to express my opinion, and I should be grateful for this person because I'm not good enough and they're staying with me. I mean, that loop goes through your head when the reality is that's not the loop, but that's what the programming is. Like I keep picturing a flip phone when you talk about the phones, and well, I wouldn't want that OS on my phone today, right? And my OS, we often get stuck in that very early age. Those things get imprinted on us. We don't know that they're not normal, and we don't know what we're missing. Self-love. We don't know we are self-betraying ourselves, right? We just know this is our system. And so until people start to dig out of the place wherever they are to say, why me? What role do I have?
Mhm.
And it's not a blame role. It's a I have to learn role. Right? There's a huge difference because, oh, what's my fault? I did this versus, okay, I need to set better boundaries. I tell people the first thing in recovering from emotional abuse is figure out what your wounds are. Start with the
Yeah.
ones you can identify. You've got shame, you've got guilt, you've got fear. If you have fear, every narcissist will exploit that while promising that they won't. And so heal that fear and learn to manage it so that it isn't managing you.
for sure. I want to talk about a little bit more about when we're children, when we're absorbing all these programs, really, they're beliefs about ourselves. The one thing that we lack from the ages of 0 to 6, there's one word that I always bring up. It's discernment.
Mm,
So if you, and this is what we do as adults, we go back and say, why was I so stupid that I believed my parents? And why did I? Okay. From these very, when we're so young, we don't have discernment, meaning we absorb everything around us and take it in as truth, 100% truth. So let
mhm.
me give you an example. If my father says to me that, what did your dad say? That's a great example. You better
You'll
marry
never,
well.
yeah, you better
Yeah.
marry well. You'll never amount to anything.
Yeah, you'll never amount to anything. Or what if your dad just said, you better marry well, and didn't leave that, it didn't even say the next thing? We have to make up a story around why he'd even say that. So then we interpret that as, oh, because I'm a piece of shit, or I'm a
Mhm,
nothing. I'm a nobody. I don't
mhm,
have any value. That's why I have to marry well. I'll never make money on my own. All of these things as a little kid, we go, well, dad's right. He's my dad. Why would he lie to me? Of course he's right. If my mother yells at me and I've run in from school and I've got this little artwork that I've done and I've done finger painting, let's just say, and I'm in kindergarten or first grade or something, and I run in and my mother screams at me and she's in her bedroom and the lights are out and she's taking a nap and I come running in and I'm all excited, mommy, look at my artwork. She says, get the hell out of my room. What's wrong with you? Can't you see I'm in here sleeping? We immediately will fall into shame. We immediately think there's something wrong with us. Maybe we make up a story that I'm not artistic. Maybe I'm bad. I'm not lovable. My mother hates me, whatever it might be. I don't
mhm,
have that discernment to say, oh, wait, mommy has another migraine.
mhm.
Mommy doesn't like in the afternoons because that's when she gets her migraines, or mommy's got bad period cramps, or whatever the heck it is. We don't have that ability when we're little kids.
Mhm,
We take it in as if it's our fault that
mhm,
they're acting like that. So I need to become someone else in order for them to love me. Because our main thing that we need, our goal when we're growing up is I've got to remain lovable and acceptable in my family, or else I'm going to get kicked out. So
mhm,
it's all about me. I've got to change who I am. I've got to contort and become someone else and turn myself into a pretzel so that then my father and my mother still love me and I'm accepted into the family. We do it all unconsciously. I've
mhm,
got to become a pleaser. I've got to take care of my mother. I've got to abandon my emotions.
mhm.
I can't feel what I'm feeling because it feels so bad.
Yeah. And again, that's where we end up putting everyone's needs above our own because we don't have the self-confidence in ourselves. And what you were saying about the stories, I don't know if you could see it if I tilt back, but I have a sign. What am I making this mean?
Yes.
Because I talk to my clients, those stories that we're talking about,
Hmm.
that's sometimes just a story.
Hmm.
I'm not good enough. Really, what's the proof? I'm not smart enough, right? That's a big one that I held. And, again, you're not smart enough. You better marry well, kind of a thing. But when I was about to launch my first divorce book, which is 350 pages, and my father said to me, pretty much one of the last conversation I ever had with him, "You're writing a book?" Now, he knew I'd been writing it for 3 years. "Who the hell would read your book? You never even wrote a term paper." I'm like, really? You're
Wow.
forgetting all of the success I've had, all of the things I did. It went back to you abusing me back to when I was little. And that's the last words I heard from my father. That imprinted on me.
Mm,
And yet I have a big sign on my wall. They told me I couldn't, so I did. Screw you. That's how I am now, where that would have crushed me before. I tell people this not because it crushed me, because it's so absurd. And I just like, I say, gosh, how could he have said something like that? Who does that to their child, right? But unfortunately, I had it. And that put a lot of wounds on me. And I ended up marrying two of them and dating a third, right? So
mm,
until I did the work to say, it's not to get more like I'm smart. It's to not hold on to those toxic things that people hear and the stories that they build around it. The story is you will never be a success. If you are holding that,
Mhm.
you are living in that place.
I love this so much. We something that we talk about in the adult chair community is I ask people all the time, what's 100% fact and truth right now in this very moment?
Mhm,
Not what my dad said, not what my mom taught me, not what my partner is saying. What is 100% fact and truth that you know to be
mhm,
true about yourself? And that's when we have to turn towards self and ask ourselves the question like, wait a minute, hold on a second. Is it true what they said, or can I find a new truth within?
mhm,
And when people can go there, they start developing this new sense of self, and it takes work because we're so used to listening to people outside of us, right? But when we can go in and say, hold on a second, what is it that's 100% fact and truth? They'll go, oh, maybe I am, like to your point, maybe I can write.
mhm,
Maybe I've been with several narcissists now, and I know this backwards and forwards, and it's time I write this book.
mhm.
Maybe that's what's true. And then we have to become story busters because, man, we go into stories all the time. We got to
Oh,
bust those stories and say, hold on, is this still true? Is this true at all?
mhm.
No,
What did?
oftentimes it's like, that's not true. That's what someone else told me. We get to determine what's true for us.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's it.
And we get to hold
Ultimately, it's
on
our
to
opinion.
which
Yes.
part of the story that we want to. If we're holding on to that, I'm not good enough or smart enough,
Yeah.
then we're going to live from that place, as
Right.
I did, and broke myself out of it to say, you know what? I'm going to show you and do it anyway, right? And so
Yes.
until we get that courage, until we overcome all the emotional wounds that your adult share program helps people with, and I want you to talk about like what are these core things? I know there's three levels of the adult chair. Can
Hmm.
you kind of briefly share with us what they are so that people can learn to live in the adult chair, which I think is something you always say to them.
I do. I say you got to find your adult chair. No one was taught, and again, I've said this for years and years and years, which is why I even created this whole thing. We weren't taught in school growing up how
Mhm,
to do all the things that are in the adult chair. These are the big things. So the adult chair teaches us who we are today and how we got this way. It's
mhm,
based on three different developmental stages of your life. We've got number one, the child chair, that's 0 to 6. This is where we learn how do we feel our emotions? How do we trust our emotions? What are our true emotional needs? Like, I need you to tell me the truth. I need a hug, this kind of thing. This is where spontaneity shows up, intimacy, vulnerability. So, several things happen in the child chair, otherwise known as the inner child.
mhm,
Around age 7, we then move into what we call the adolescent chair, and that goes from 7 to 24. This is a big developmental stage for the egoic part of who we are. It's when we feel that we're separate from the whole self. So this is where we learn how to live in the past and the future because the ego does not live in the moment. This is where we learn about codependency, narcissism. This is where the egoic identities are formed. Our masks start dropping over us. We really, like I said earlier, we have to learn who to become. I have to become who you want me to be. If you're my mom or my dad, I've got to contort myself into a pretzel, become someone else so that I'm lovable. We learn how to do this during this phase. I need to be accepted by my friends. Oh, you're drinking alcohol? Let me do that with you so that you love me too. So
mhm,
we become all these other people. We start layering ourselves with masks
mhm,
unless we had two healthy parents that raised us, or even one that showed us how to be healthy adults. How do you become emotionally healthy adults? And if we didn't have that, by the way, we get stuck in adult bodies, physically adult bodies, but navigating from what we call the adolescent chair, which is the average emotional age of a 12 or 13-year-old kid in
mhm,
middle school. Think about that. But if you are in your adult, this is where you live in the moment, where you are very aware. So I'm aware that this person is gaslighting me. I'm aware that this feels uncomfortable. I'm aware that um, I'm not in a job that I want. It's awareness of everything. We live with curiosity. We live with strength. We learn there are 5 pillars that live in the adult chair model. And the 5 pillars came from 30 years of working with clients. I found myself teaching the same thing over and over and over again. That's where this book came from. It's like, what? exactly do humans need to learn in order to live as healthy adults? And what I call, again, in your adult chair. So the five pillars are these things. These are wonderful because, you and I have talked before about how do you build an identity in someone that doesn't have a really strong sense of self, of who they are. And when we're in narcissistic relationships, we're stripped of that.
Hmm.
We are. We don't know who we are anymore. So these five things are what every healthy adult needs to live with for the rest of their lives, not just one time, but forever. So these are the steps. Number one, pillar number one is I claim my reality. I own my reality. So the reality that you're living in right now, is it healthy or is it not? What is the pink elephant in the room that you don't want to see, that you're
Hmm.
not talking about? You don't have to put it on social media, but you've got to own it for yourself. So these are things like, gosh, you know what? I don't like how my husband talks to me. I don't like that my daughter screams at me. I don't like that my son threw or has a problem with throwing things across the room at me. Like that's a problem. I'm going to stop saying that that's okay. So I'm drinking too much when I get home. That's owning your reality. I'm not going to sweep it under the carpet anymore. Again, this is for yourself to claim. That's it. You
Hmm.
don't have to tell another living soul. When you own what's right in front of you, that's where the change begins.
Wow.
Because you can't change something that you're not willing to own. So you've got to own it and say, wow, that is what's going on. I'm in an abusive relationship. I'm saying that to myself. Number two, I live with self compassion because once we own our reality, oftentimes we go into the story, we go into criticizing ourselves and what's wrong with me? Why did I stay? Why am I drinking so much? Yada, yada, yada. We've got to cultivate self compassion. The healthiest people, the most successful people in the world, they've done studies on this, live with self compassion.
Hmm.
The self compassionate voice helps us out of anxiety, helps us out of depression, helps us build that healthy sense of self. That person within needs to be the biggest cheerleader that you can even imagine, the most loving grandparent, the most loving parent, the most loving friend. You got to cultivate that voice. That's being self compassionate, being forgiving. All of those things are what self compassionate people do. Number three, we've got to learn how to, again, feel our emotions. That means doing the inner child work. It means connecting back into the body and noticing, what am I feeling? Wow, when they said that to me, that felt really bad. When we are in relationships like that you talk about, the abusive relationship, the narcissistic relationship, we turn down the volume on our emotions because they feel really bad. We've got to turn the volume up and feel.
Hmm.
Got to feel the emotions and learn how to do it. Again, I wish we were learned in school like how to do all this. We were not. I'm working on getting the adult chair in schools, but that's a side note. Okay. And number four is I manage and own my triggers. Triggers are our superpower. When we learn, in fact, chapter 7 of the adult chair book, I have an entire script and it's an outline on how you work a trigger. That one thing has been probably the biggest catalyst in my life. Once I learned that, my whole life changed.
Hmm.
Once you learn that, again, triggers, no one out there can trigger us unless I have the wounding around it,
Hmm.
right? So we learn it's mine and I teach you how to work that trigger. And then the very last step are boundaries. I set healthy boundaries. So those are the five pillars that healthy adults live with. When we can implement these five things, our whole life can change. And I've done this work now with the adult chair for 13 years. The
Hmm.
book came out a year ago. I mean, and the podcast is the adult chair. It's like I have heard this for 13 years over and over. This has changed my life. It is the toolkit that we should have gotten really when we were probably in eighth grade. When we were 12 years old, we needed to learn this stuff and we just weren't taught. Hopefully that's changing in the near future.
I say that exact thing every single day. Why can't they teach emotional resilience, what a boundary is, how to understand who they are, what they are? There's so much that we wish you and I, again, 13 years, 12 years I've been doing this. It's the same story. It's the same wounds. It's the same thousands and thousands of people that didn't learn it when they were younger, right? And, when you said no one else can trigger you unless you have a wound, That's what my mantra is. We've got to look at these wounds. We've got to untangle the wires. If you look under my computer desk right now with all the monitors and all the accoutrements, there's a lot of cords under there. And
Mhm.
that's the same thing I equated to. We are untangling them. We
Yeah.
are going, here's one. I see this vulnerability, this weakness, this I'm a people pleaser, whatever it is. And I'm going to fix that, right? It's not that you want to stop being nice to people because when you say people pleasing and they're like, well, I cannot be nice to people. No, it's taking others' needs before yours to,
Mhm.
there's so much more in people pleasing than people realize. And what it's doing is it's taking away who you are in your life by trying to make everyone happy. And that was who I was. I was a codependent people pleaser, give for
Mhm.
anyone, stay up all night for you. I will do it all. And now I take care of me and I do everything else for others, but I don't forego taking care of me any longer. And I did my whole life until I did all of the work that you're describing. Does someone go through the adult chair and learn about this while they're in an abusive relationship to get out? Or is it better after they are gone and they can do the work and really focus? Well, how does it work with that?
Start today. I don't care where you are, because I can't think of one human on the planet that does not need this book.
Mhm,
Like the adult chair, and in the book, the way that I wrote it is like a journey. So I teach you something and then I give you exercises at the very end so you can implement it immediately and start to experience change right away.
mhm,
So yeah, we all need help with self-worth. We all need help with building a really strong identity. We all need help with taking our masks off.
mhm,
Like every human has this. There's no human that does not have wounding from our past. So
mhm.
every human needs this work. And yeah, so yeah, I don't care if you're in an abusive relationship or not, start reading it today. And you can read it in private. You don't have to tell anybody. You can listen to it, to your point. You can do it on Audible. The book, some people do the Audible, they listen and then they get the book and they use it like a little bit of a workbook. Not that it's a workbook, it's truly a book. But and they go back and I just did a live event for the adult chair and someone came in and she's like, it was highlighted and there were like, post-it notes throughout the whole thing. She's like, this is my new Bible. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. So yeah, but people in abusive relationships very specifically, and I know the whole codependency, that was me,
Mhm,
100%. We need the inner work. We need that. Really, it's about rebuilding your identity. There's an identity that needs to become. And here's the thing, your true self is in there, it's just covered up.
mhm,
It's covered up and it's untapped territory. Your beautiful adult self, your beautiful true essence, like you were born as a little baby with this magnificent soul wrapped in a human suit. That you is in there. It's always been in you. So
mhm,
it's covered up though by who you are not. And who you are not someone that does not have boundaries. You are not someone that is weak. You are not someone that tolerates abuse. But the thinking is that you do tolerate it because of the programming. So what I do in the book and just in everything I teach is to tap into that core, the core of who you truly are. So you
mhm.
can live from that perspective and not the wounded perspective.
I'm in love with this. You were just mentioning codependency and my skin crackles when people say, I'm a codependent, that's why I got abused.
No.
Now, it's a factor that
Mhm.
you are vulnerable because of the way you look at yourself and the way you give and all of that. But these wounds are again, what I teach you have to heal. It's not, it's the fear, it's this,
Yeah.
it's self-love, it's self-betrayal. And stop doing that and stop learning that you are hurting yourself, right? Again, that's how I think it is. But codependency's on the checklist. Yes, if I've got that,
Mhm.
I've got something I've got to heal. There's
Yes.
so much that most survivors who have been through this, when they come out the other side and they do the work, they're completely different people because they have no more borders, no more barriers around them that are going to give their power away, right? It's okay to love someone. You just don't have
Yeah,
to have them control you. You want a partner, not a, dictator over you saying you can't go buy soup, or whatever the stupid thing is. What do you think about that connection and the codependent blame? You were with a narcissist, you must be a codependent.
totally. I mean, I relate so much to codependency. I didn't know what it was. Again, that's another thing that wasn't talked about much until about 10 years ago. I mean, Melody Beattie talked about it, but years ago. But anyway, um, what do I think about that being, did you say a root cause? What
The
was your
root
question?
cause. I mean, it,
Yeah.
it gets blamed a lot. And again, when I look at the list of vulnerabilities, it's on
Yeah.
there, but it's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. So I want to give you a question back. So then what is the thing?
Everyone's going to have their own thing that they picked up from when they were young.
Yeah.
Again, we're exposed to fear. If you were exposed to you're not
Yeah.
good enough, those things stick in you.
Yeah. And it really just it just doesn't when we're growing up, and again, I look at I was not raised by, well, it's interesting. I was not raised by a narcissist. But what I did hear was, and my dad was, this is a very interesting story. My father, I was an Italian family, upstate New York. My dad was like this mushy, loving human. Like I have never felt more unconditional love, right?
Mhm.
But he was married to, excuse me, he was an identical twin to a narcissistic, evil twin, alcoholic narcissist, right? So here's what's interesting. And someone said, I think that you were gaslit. And I was horrified. I'm like, my dad was a big marshmallow. He did not have healthy boundaries. But
Mhm.
my uncle was very abusive emotionally with my mom
Mhm.
and with our family. And my dad would say to me things like, oh, because he was an identical twin and they were so close. And my dad would say, well, when your uncle drinks, the devil comes out. That's not really who he is. So as a little kid growing up in that, I'd say, why is Uncle Don so mean? Well,
Mhm.
that's just the alcohol. Now, I don't know about you, but that to me is like, as I look at it now as a 58-year-old grown ass woman, I'm like, hold on a second. Like that, and my indicator for gaslighting is confusion. And I'm like, that was very confusing.
Mhm.
So I heard that my entire life. My
Mhm.
grandmother was horrible to my mom, and we all lived together in a lake house every summer, like growing up. So I had all these beautiful memories, and I'd go in the house and I was like, eek. But what I learned to do as a little girl was abandon myself.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that until probably 10 years ago. Like, oh, I actually was abandoning myself because I had to not be myself. I had to take care of my mother who was being abused by my grandmother and my uncle. So I had to leave Michelle and take care of my mom and take care of my little sister and take care of my aunt and all the other women that
Mhm.
were so weak around these very strong narcissists. So I thought they were strong and powerful. But
Mhm.
yeah, I abandoned myself. So I think what you're talking about, the
Mhm.
fear, the doubt, and all that, that was there for me. And it also played into the codependency. Codependency for me was just this whole loss of identity. And I became someone else. I became the caretaker. I became the rescuer. I was going to take care of my mom when my uncle was mean. This is so dysfunctional. When I was 21, I was getting my master's, or 22, however, young 20s. And I mean, I'd have my parents on the phone. This is back before cell phones. Like I'd be away. I was away in Richmond getting my master's degree, and I'm on the phone connected to the wall with my mom's on one line, my dad's upstairs, and I'm doing marriage counseling for them, like so inappropriate, like so and I'm trying to still fix it.
Mhm.
So yeah, so when I think about what leads to this narcissistic, relationship that we form with people, it's I don't know who I am. And
Mhm.
I'm here to please you. And I'm here to abandon myself for you. I don't know what I like. I don't know who I am. I don't, I've worked with women that were so codependent. I remember sitting in front of a woman asking her, what is your favorite restaurant? Where do you like to go? And she'd say, well, my kids like to go here. I go, no, no, no. Where do you like to go? Well, my husband likes to go. No, 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 no. Where do you like to go? And here's what they say. Oh, so many women said this to me. I'm easygoing. I like to go anywhere. No, 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 no. And I'd hammer these women like tell me what you like, and some women would cry. They didn't know. So all of that, like I think the codependency wheel, like it's got the doubt, it's got the fear, it's got the identity, it's got the math, it's got all of it in there that leads to not knowing who we are. And instead of being connected to self, I'm connected to people out there in my reality outside of me. And I'm
Mhm.
going to link into you and suction cup on you like a big octopus, suction cup and go, life support. You are my life support, as we're codependent. So I think I'm a slightly off track, but yeah, that's what I think about why we get in these relationships. I don't know who I am. And I know that I need to connect with someone outside of me in order to feel like I have an identity. I remember this when I can still see myself sitting in Charleston, South Carolina. I was with now my now husband, and he looked at me and he said, I'm really excited to marry you. We just gotten engaged. And I said, you are? And he said, yeah. Why are you saying it like that? I said, because here's what's so crazy. I said, because you don't need me. You're so independent. I said, you don't need me. So it's really confusing that you want to marry me. And he looked at me like I had five heads. And I said, he goes, I love you for you. And I said, but you don't need me for anything. I don't understand how you love me.
Doesn't compute.
I could not comprehend why you would want to marry me, not only marry me, but love me if I'm not fixing you all the time. Because that I was a pro at fixing everybody.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I've come a long way, baby.
And you know what?
In 30 years, I'm like,
That's what it
wow.
takes, right? I was the caregiver, of three daughters. There was the every no one talked to anyone. I was the only one, and I took proud. I still talk to mom. I still talk to both siblings. They're not talking. They're not talking. I'll fix it, right? That's who I became. And then when I would marry them, I'll fix you. I'll
Yes.
make it all better. And so when I did my work to really, and I did a whole year of getting to know myself with my
Oh, I
spiritual leader,
love that.
and she had me look at stupid things like count how many shoes are in your closet.
Mhm.
Why? What is that going to do? I'm like, I'm trying to heal my life. I came back with like 64 shoes. And she's like, how many did you wear? I'm like, four. She goes, why are you holding on to the others? Well, I have this pair of Pradas that my ex-mother-in-law bought me for $500 and I'll never be able to afford them. She goes, when's the last time you wore them? I'm like, 15 years ago. And she's like, so why are you afraid that, and do they fit you? They didn't even fit me. But I came to the conclusion that it was fear of not having something again. And
Mm,
that I was like, oh my God. And now I threw them all out and I just keep the ones I wear. But looking at that, and I use when I teach the Who You Are class, I used the Runaway Bride movie with Julia Roberts,
mm,
where she didn't know what kind of eggs she liked. And each one of her four
mm,
fiancés, she would like what they liked. And
hmm.
Richard Gere
Yes.
covered this, right? And I equated that to I hate seafood. Grew up on the water, the smell of it makes me smell like low tide. I'm like, can't do it. And every single man I've ever been has held the spoon and gone, here, try
Try
mine.
it.
It's different. You've never had it my way. And then I would gag and they would make fun of me and call me a baby. And now the new Tracy would be like, I don't want your fish. I don't care if it's different. I know what I like and I know what I don't like. And I'm not trying to please you by eating that bite. And I'm not afraid I'm going to lose you if I eat it. And if I do lose you, thank you. Like
Mm,
I am in such a different place because of Julia Roberts and her thing, and I can equate it to that stupid seafood. I didn't have the courage to set that boundary. I was afraid
right.
I would lose them. That's a vulnerability that the narcissist exploits, right?
Yes.
It's crazy, but they do. All right, we have talked so long. I don't want to take your whole day, although we could have talked for hours. Um, can you tell people how to reach you?
Yes. So if you go to theadultchair.com, you'll see everything. I've got courses, I have a coaching certification, I have the book. The book is on Amazon and everywhere else. But I want to give your listeners something that I created that I did charge for, but I found so many people need it. And I'm here to help people heal and really transform. And that's it's unshakable self-worth. Because what I have found is at the root of so much, like why we don't set boundaries, why we can't own our reality, why we stay in relationships like this, it's self-worth.
Hmm.
We don't feel worthy of leaving. We don't feel valuable. So I did this magnificent course. And I say that because that's the feedback I get on it. Like, it's the best. Anyway, it's Unshakable Self Worth. And if you go to theadultchair.com/, self worth, it's free. Take it, start your healing process. But again, if they're working with you, they've already started.
Hmm.
Add it to your healing process. Let's just say it like that because
Yeah.
we need it. Like I find we need help in this. It's being human is hard work.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you got to find the right people to help you. So I'm grateful to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me. And I know the work you do, and gosh, your people are very lucky to have you. I just want to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And everyone, we will put all of Michelle's information in the show notes down below. And until then, we will see you again soon. I told you she was going to be great. I knew that you would all love what she's got to share. I've never read her book, but I've followed her work for a long time and I just ordered it and I'm going to be getting it and listening to it tonight because we all need to keep tuning up. We need to learn. We need to be reinforced that we are not good enough and we are just fine the way we are. So I hope that you learned something today, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you.